Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X, presented by Crushing Comics. I am here as your host, Crisis with a K, with two of my friends from around the world from me, Fariha and Harry, and we are here to talk about Excalibur issue number 20. It was out on the 7th of April, 2021. And this discussion comes with our standard disclaimer. This is a spoiler-filled discussion. We're going to talk about all of the details of this comic, of the run up until this point, and the history of these characters, plus probably what's happening in some of the other X-Men books as well. So just know that you're getting into a full spoilers discussion. In addition, we're going to have another word of warning from Fariha today.
So for Excalibur 20, we should start with a content and trigger warning. This particular issue, talks very exclusively, in a way that really shook me about suicide. So I am going to be 34 at the end of this year, but for half of my life, I have been suicidal. I grew up in a family that was very happy, from a Bangladeshi point of view, however, growing up, I always felt isolated, and I always kind of had the same feeling of like, it's better if I'm gone, or I just want to die. That was always the feeling that I had. And honestly, I never went through with it because I just didn't want to inconvenience anyone with my dead body. Like, that was one of the reasons I never did it. And then there was the funniest thing was that when I started reading Harry Potter, I had to leave because I needed to know what happened to Harry at the end. And then it became about a thing that, okay, at least that next thing is coming. Maybe I should stick around to see that, It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized that this was when I was 22, I was actually telling my friend, thinking this is something how everyone feels. I didn't know that this is a problematic feeling, and then you should seek help for that. So we want to kind of give the trigger warning and the content warning that there is a lot of conversations around that in this issue. And if you are feeling suicidal, if you know someone who is feeling suicidal, please seek help. Please go to the suicidal hotline. You can find the local numbers if you just Google, please seek help. If I really kind of had one day thought about it and did it, I wouldn't be here. I don't think about it anymore. I'm in a much better place, but for more than half my life, I just felt like I want to die. So, yeah.
Fariha, thank you so much for sharing that and for also contextualizing this discussion with it, because it's going to be something that comes up in this book, and there are certain topics that I think we need to give everybody fair warning about that we're going to dig into heavily. But I think the other part of that too is to say that these topics are reflected in our lives, and that's what can make great art great. And it's also what can make art uncomfortable. And comics are art. And so comics can be great, and they can also be uncomfortable to discuss as well. So we know if some of you aren't going to stick around for us talking more about that in the book, if you haven't read the issue yet, and you happen to be listening to us first, there is no graphic depiction of self-harm in the book, but it is a theme throughout the issue in such a way that it's unavoidable to talk about in the discussion. So from there, we are going to talk about our initial thoughts on Excalibur 20, and we will start with Fariha's initial thoughts on how this issue came off for her.
So in a way, this issue had a lot of obviously we're talking about the Malice's background and how she was like, I just want to die. Obviously, it hit a home a lot. It was and the thing is, even though her life was kind of perfect, not perfect, but her life was okay apparently, and still she felt that way. That was very that touched me a lot. And then also the fact that there were a bunch of ladies that came together, tried to save her, even though men were telling her, oh, we're just gonna put her in the we're gonna punish her. And yeah, but you just finished a meeting with Sinister, with Shaw, with these people, and you are okay to punish the lady. So I want to talk a little bit more about that later, but anyway, so from all that story content point of view, it was a 5 out of 5 for me. However, it doesn't match thematically with Excalibur, with everything that we have read so far. So I don't know what to think about it, like from that point of view. So I would say, from if I see this issue just by itself, it was a 5 out of 5.
Harry.
Well, we're kind of in a similar area where, I think it's fair to say this book has kind of made us feel a little battered and fatigued lately, maybe. So when I started this, I really didn't have any expectations. And I don't know Malice. I don't know that character. I don't know, the point I'm making is just reading this in a vacuum, just as an issue I pulled up, I thought was really powerful. And one of my favorite issues of this book in a while, because it really is just about very primal things of someone deeply in pain being helped by other people in a very heroic way. And that's a very primal, moving, affecting thing that really got to me. I was surprised how much I enjoyed this. I don't know what kind of score I'd give it, probably like a 4 or 4.5, but you're right that it doesn't feel like kind of a type with the other issues. I don't know if I care. I just really liked reading this book, and that's kind of where I land with it.
For me, I think this played to all of Teenie Howard's strengths as an author. The reason that I have enjoyed her on so many other books before she was even in the X Office is I think she writes about these sorts of characters and feelings really well. One of my favorite books of hers is Euthanauts, which is this book that is very much about kind of the line between life and death and what it means to be alive versus what it means to be dead. And I thought it was really charming and affecting. And this is maybe the first time in this whole run of Excalibur that I actually got that feeling from Excalibur. I had some other issues with it, like were all the characters being used well? Does it line up with the continuity? But
Same.
But at the same time, like I think that this is a great lesson in that matters less and less the more interesting you can make the story. Even the continuity adherents like me, if you can tell a good story, all can be forgiven. And for me, I don't even know if I believe this Malice lined up with what my concept of Malice was. As somebody who literally just read the first 5 or 6 Malice appearances within the last week, coincidentally, because that's what I'm up to in my personal read. And yet it worked for me because it was just an incredibly well put together story.
Yeah.
Jumping off from there, I think the first thing we can talk about here is that this really focuses in on Betsy and Quanon, and to Fariha's point in the intro there, kind of almost casts them as, and all of the women in this book, as having some fundamental disagreements with how the men in the Quiet Council are going about things, right? Betsy is called in from this Quiet Council to kind of give an update, and they kind of give her a pat on the head like, that's nice. And it turns out that Betsy was using it to lure out Malice, who at the end of last issue, it seemed like Malice was just into the Otherworld. Like it felt like that plot was going to take a while to resolve to me. And of course, then all the people in the Quiet Council are ready to bring down the hammer. Let it not be missed that Sinister used to basically, wield Malice as a weapon, and he's just happy to be complicit into sending her into this because she makes an attack on Emma Frost, who later shows her own mercy. And that's the first point I want to go around with. It feels like mercy has actually become one of the big themes of this book. We've seen that in the last issue with Quanon turning around and giving Betsy mercy. Now we have the two of them showing mercy along with Emma to Malice, somebody who does the same thing thematically that Psylocke has been embroiled in for years. And I don't think any of us as readers would have had at the top of our list of somebody to be forgiven. So what do you think about the quality of mercy, and not only the quality of mercy, but the gendered quality of mercy as we are seeing it in this book, Fariha?
So, I mean, it kind of brought back a lot of like the things that we have seen that, if it is a female serial killer or a female murderer, or like, it gets significantly more prison time, or like, their punishment is significantly worse than men. Like, and then also you would see that their backstory always has like, some kind of trauma, some kind of abuse, assault, rape in their lives that led them to that, so which always annoys me. It's like, oh, come on, let me just hate you properly because you were
I just want to hate people properly.
Yeah,
I just want to fully hate. That's all I'm looking for.
I don't want like all these mixed feelings that, oh, maybe, maybe not. But the thing is, like, when you look at it from the men point of view, they're just they were like bullied and they couldn't handle it. It just like there was such a difference in there. And then so you look at it and then you see Professor X. So Sinister was actually not there when they were making that rule. It was, he left earlier than that. But
Oh,
the
I
thing is,
bet he did.
But he is the one who put Malice into the body, right? Like, or that's what I think Tyler was kind of hypothesizing. So he is part of that, and he always willed her as a weapon because I kind of read her wiki, like, for like getting at people. And here we are, like, Professor X, like, yeah, we forgive everyone, but not her if she keeps on doing this. And then it's like, oh, she's gonna be a security threat. Yeah, Mastermind wasn't, like, and
I don't believe in prison, but we're sending her to our prison.
Right, we're sending her to the prison.
We'll get back to that. Yeah,
and then Magneto had the audacity to say, "Yeah, we expect more from her because of her power." Oh yeah, so you're not expecting more from others, like, like I can just go like Will Smith like this. Like, these are the people we're your council members. Like, what are you doing? So. And I don't know, maybe because they think that, oh, we are mutants, so for us, nothing, not other intersectionality doesn't matter. But it was just very heartwarming to see that Betsy and Quanon feels differently about that. It's like, no, it's not. We're trying my best to kind of help her because. And I think Betsy feels that way because she was also disembodied. Both Betsy and Quanon feels that way because they were disembodied from them. And, so I don't know, that was just so nice. And I was like thinking about it. It's like, okay, they are now a different state of their being or their existence where they don't have to run from anything. So they can just help each other, like in such a humane way. Like, this is such a, like, you would see this in Avengers story, right? Like, it's like, this got nothing to do with who they are as a mutant, but it's more to do with just them helping another person out, So I don't know. It was just, so much feels.
Harry, what did you think about all that?
Well, that's why I love this so much, is just the simplicity of it. Now, I can't speak as much about the gender dynamics besides Professor X. Rarely has he come off more as just a moron than in this book, but like it's this even for him, this is pretty bad. But like, Malice, again, literally, besides the last issue, first time I read this character, it just like the level of pain is just so overwhelming and so raw and recent. Even like it's been years and years, but it still feels like it is not lessened, which is, the character. And like the fact that, Betsy and Quan and what have you, they just had to match that with like a level of compassion and like resoluteness in that to get her maybe to somewhere better. Like, that just feels incredibly kind and earned and beautiful. I think it's just a very primal sort of reaction to that level of pain, and I think that was really moving, and I didn't expect it at all. But it felt honest in a way, in the right kind of way, and I just, it really impressed me.
On the long list of things that I love about this issue, I love that it framed it with Malice's arrival of her mutant power, and it wasn't framed in self-harm. Like, she is depressed, she is suicidal. Her mother thinks that she has committed some form of self-harm, but that's not the point of that scene, right? I'm not misreading it. Her power happened in that moment. And it recontextualizes who Malice has always been. If you go back and read issues, like one of my favorite issues of all time, Uncanny X-Men 214, highly recommended because it's a dazzler issue by Barry Windsor Smith, I want to say, maybe. It's wild. And Malice is just jumping around the whole team. And Malice at that time, and in many times after that, she's almost like the quintessential mean girl. Like, she just wants to get into somebody's body and cause bad things to happen for them. And she really sinks her teeth into Polaris for a long time and causes a lot of bad things to happen for Polaris. But it's almost like she has this, she's Teenie Howard recasts it so well because it's just the self-destructive urge playing out for somebody who doesn't have a body. There's nothing incongruous or disconnected about trying to go back and interpret her based on that. This is what happens when somebody who's never been helped and is in this state is floating around as a disembodied spirit, right? So on that level, I just was like, wow, that was some major judo of narrative that she just did on us right there. But then here's the other thing that I loved, and I think Harry talking about compassion really got it. Psylocke, whoever we're calling Psylocke, Betsy and Quanon didn't know all that. All they knew is that they had just shown each other mercy, and here was somebody whose situation they could empathize with, and they were going to bring her the same degree of mercy that they just showed each other, and it didn't really matter why. As it turns out, they really have this deep connection to her. I didn't get the impression that they knew already from their brief psychic connection from her, all of the stuff about her and how her powers started and why she feels the way that she does. Maybe Betsy had like an inkling of it from her being stuck in her body, but I never got that the story was telling. They know this, she needs help, they're counseling her. They did it because it's what you should be doing for all mutants because everybody's starting from a blank slate on Krakoa. And that's what, to make my final comment here, cast Magneto and Xavier in such a stark relief here that made me rethink a lot of what they're doing, is that they claim that Krakoa is for everybody. They claim that everybody's got a blank slate. God, Magneto certainly has a blank slate. Think of all the people he's killed. But this one woman who, what is the worst thing Malice has even done? I mean, her crimes have been much more personal, much more invasive, much more of an assault, but she's not a mass murderer that I can remember. I don't know her whole history, but they were so willing to just come out and be like, she's the worst. It just really made me think about the hypocrisy of them versus Betsy and Quanon actually being leaders here and doing the thing that everybody says they're doing. And Emma, bless her, and Teenie Howard for writing her that way, waking up from a coma and being like, I've got your back, ladies, because this is actually what this is about. So really powerful for me. So powerful to see all of those things at play.
I wish, to be honest, though, that Magneto was the one who was saying all of those things instead of Xavier, because it makes sense that she was like, messing around with Polaris. Like that would have made sense.
Oh yeah, that would have been a really interesting beat. It doesn't take away from it that it wasn't, but it would have been a really interesting beat.
Right. Like at least at that point, it's like, okay, Magneto obviously has always been like super protective of mutant, let alone his daughter, so it would have made more personal, it's like he's the one who's like, yeah, nah, because that would have been not better. But the fact that it wasn't him and it was Xavier and saying that, and then these girls were actually ladies, like Betsy, I think it was Betsy or Quanon, one of them said it's like, she's just here, people come and go in Krakoa all the time. So why is she so special? Not to mention Shadow King is hanging out in Krakoa.
Right. If we're talking about like scale, exponential scale of people who get into people's bodies and do horrific stuff, you've got Malice down here, bad, and like Shadow King over there. It's not,
I'm not being charitable to them because I think they come off awful in this, but I feel like the immediacy of Malice attacking Betsy in the Quiet Council makes it feel more fresh, which doesn't excuse it.
They definitely are having a moment of in our Quiet Council.
Exactly.
Really?
No, but it paints them as incredibly just incapable of understanding this kind of situation, and which just makes it such a better stark divide between Betsy and Quanon, which is just I just think good storytelling in that way. It just kind of shows the delineation.
And it also brings up another one of my points where I keep on saying that is I get it, they're in Krakoa, and I get it, they're all competent pawns and stuff. But the thing is, they're also these little things that are wrong with them. And one of them is anyone can attack a Quiet Council member at any time. I was just like, what is this? Why is there not a psychic shield? They do that all the time. Why aren't they all wearing Magneto's
Plus, they're just in the middle of a freaking forest. There's no doors or anything. People can just I guess in an open government sense, that's cool. I have been to New Zealand Parliament. That was fun. But at the same time, it's a little crazy. I just want to make one pit stop before we go to the next scene. The one panel of Emma in her mental panic room with her arms crossed being like, this bullshit.
That's funny. Now I'm
So
just thinking
fun.
about like where would I rank Charles and Eric on like the emotional intelligence scale? I don't
Oh,
think
not
I'd go
good.
very high. It's like 5 at best,
Not
you know.
not good.
I mean,
Not
Charles Xavier is
good.
somebody who can literally just see everybody's emotion laid bare for him of every person in the world, but his emotional intelligence actually pretty low. So we now pass through a scene that's one of these kind of casual life scenes. Some people might roll their eyes at it because it's all about fashion, but it's a really
No.
interesting moment that we get at the lighthouse. Betsy wants to find something for the Hellfire Gala. Rogue is trying to coach her on it, knowing she already has the best outfit in the bag, clearly, as we've
We know
discussed on the
it.
YouTube channel.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Jubilee is just enjoying some gal time. And I really get this sense, maybe just the way she's sitting on the bed and looking at her toddler and then talking to them, that Jubilee feels like she's finally out of the kids' table. Like she's had a relationship with these two women for so long. They were two of the
Yeah.
women that discovered her. They were two of the women that were in X-Men Blue with her. But it really feels like Jubilee's like really on the level with her as adults. And I think in my life of times that I've finally been an adult with the adults instead of the kids' table. And so I got that. And I was already loving it. And then on top of that, you introduce Quanon into the scene and it becomes about the catharsis of throwing away the things that don't fit you anymore, both literally and figuratively. Again, masterclass storytelling by Teenie Howard, in my opinion. Although some people are like, oh, that dress scene. I'm sure, not to gender who's going to not like it. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who don't like it. But Freya, what did you think about it?
No, I mean that was so the thing is when she was saying like, oh, none of this fits me, I was like, oh no. Like I was like instantly I was like, oh
boy.
no.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I was like, oh boy. And please don't tell me one of them has like, Japanese style things in them because I'm like, oh, that's gonna be even worse.
It's actually a kimono. Do you love it?
This isn't disrespectful enough to a whole culture. Can we get some weird shit going on?
Yeah. So the thing is, I was like, oh no. And then Quanon walks in. I was like, oh no. And then and it's like, yeah, these are all actually your bodies. So take them. And
Oh,
it's like,
God.
these are not my style.
The
and
way
then,
I dressed myself while I was in your body to just take it out like the whole like extra bonus.
like, talk about emotional intelligence. I mean, Betsy, bless her. She's not doing very well either. Like, these are something that Professor X will probably tell to, I don't know, Magneto. I don't know who he will tell this to. But the thing is, I mean, it just kind of, all of it is like, there was something so like, and then they just burn the dresses. They're like, yeah, it's just something. And then the girls are like, the ladies are just sitting in the bonfire of that burning dresses. And there's something so nice about it.
I
There was
loved
something,
it.
I mean, I can just imagine then these people, like these superpowered people, just carrying this dress or walking to the beach. It's like, hey, Glob, hey, you, and then just doing that. It just, I don't know. I love that scene. I love that scene a lot, and it's just perfect. Like they're not fighting. They're just getting stuff done.
It's just
I
about
don't
being
mean-
a human being, really.
Yeah,
It's not
I
even
mean, I
about
think
being a
it's-
mutant. Yeah.
It's fair to say that this series can be a little slow paced or lackadaisical at times. And I do think sometimes it might be as simple as the A plot isn't hitting that hard. But when you have an issue like this, where like the main thrust of the story is so good and affecting, and then you have something like this kind of side scene that's so intimate and like personal and kind of like feels so nice, as you guys have said, that like it just works together so well.
Right.
I not to just repeat everything y'all just said, but yeah, it felt thematically powerful. It felt the right level of relaxed. It was funny. Like it was a really good scene.
And credit to Marcus Toe, who I think we sometimes tag for being a little bit plain on some of these characters. I think there was a clear distinction in their faces. I think there was a clear distinction in their body language. I think he sold a lot of the emotions that ran through this issue. This issue would not hit if Marcus Toe was as surface level as we sometimes feel that he can be or feel like he delivers. And so this really just gave me good feelings. Like, I love to see an artist step up. This is a hard script to draw. You could have given Teenie Howard a lot of artists who would have not connected to the emotional moments in this, and it wouldn't have hit. And I think it totally hit because Marcus Toe helped her hit it. Gosh, just so much stuff. So I think the other thing to talk about, just to bring a little bit of Tyler's continuity sense into this while he's not with us today, is Betsy and Quanon being able to handle each other's psychic weapons. What a cool little plot beat that is. right? Like it definitely is like let me just file that one away for later. And they don't really remark about it in the moment, but it definitely stuck out like, oh, interesting. They have like a connection still. I kind of felt like last issue, maybe that was the last we were going to see them together, but I kind of like the idea that they're intrinsically connected and they're sisters in a way now. I don't know. Did you get that from this, Harry?
To an extent. I mean, it felt right seeing that they've on some level worked out a lot of their drama and their conflict, and like seeing them together more unified towards something was just satisfying. I mean, I didn't notice the mental blade as kind of connection as much, but it is cool now that you're pointing it out.
So whose power is what though? Because when they change their bodies, how did the power transferred? Like, or are they both has same power?
Honestly, not only am I never sure, but this is complicated by the fact that Betsy in the Quanon body as Psylocke once traded powers with Jean Grey on top of the power trading already, at which point she also got telekinesis, and I'm never sure if that's still a thing or not. So that I mean, I know my X-Men pretty well, but the levels of Psylocke nonsense really, really is hard for me sometimes. So the answer is I do not know. I've always assumed that Quanon and Betsy both had similar psychic powers, and through their connection, they've come to manifest it in a similar way. But the answer is I don't know. Phone a friend.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, the only reason I was going to say though is like, I think this is one of the things that I was a little bit like, oh, really? Like, that we know that Quanon is a woman of color, and then Betsy is this white British lady. And then she's the one who is managing to use her power so well. Like, it just, I don't know, something about that, it kind of got me a little bit like, oh, okay. Like, what are you trying to say? And then, Quanon looked genuinely surprised by that. Like, so I feel like that's something, but then the payoff was good. The payoff for that, all of that at the end was pretty good. So I felt like you lose some, you win some.
So the place that I want to head to this for a second to go meta is Harry's talked a little bit about the slowness of the A plot here. This feels like the kind of story this book should have been telling all along. It feels like making it, it's a great Betsy book. And I think if you want to call a Betsy book Excalibur, more power to you. I just did this Excalibur guide, and Excalibur is usually about a Braddock, a Captain Britain, and mutants. Two of the three. You can have a Braddock and mutants that's not a Captain Britain. You could have a Captain Britain and mutants, but no Braddock. But you can have Captain Britain and a Braddock, but no mutants. But it's got to be two of the three. And I think this passes the test. But it's like, I just want this. Can't we have this? It feels so distinct. You could say that it's kind of related to X Factor because it's got that life and death quality to it. But to me, this just feels distinct because it's about personhood, and it's about forgiveness, and it's about like what it means to actually grow. And I feel like the best moments of Excalibur have nailed that, and the worst moments is we're looking at Richter like stuck in this washing machine cycle where like it feels like Richter's plot is supposed to take us somewhere really similar to this plot, right? We almost could have had this with Richter.
Yes,
he has been suicidal, he has been depressed, he doesn't, and yet we got it with Malice, which makes me almost like look more askance even of the Richter plot to be like, why can't you get there with the Richter plot when you just did this phenomenal thing in a single issue?
And that's like we were talking in the chat. It's like, okay, what are how these stories are progressing? What was their starting point and where are they ending? I don't know whether this kind of passes the test for the Excalibur that Peter pointed out, that what makes this Excalibur book. But the thing is, like, it can be a good idea that it's like, okay, what about all the mutants who feel disenfranchised as a mutant within mutant community, and how do you bring them home? So can it be a story about that? I don't know whether this is the right team for that. Rogue is. I just read Mike Carey's All of Rogue Run. She is. She is. And maybe Betsy and Quanon can be part of that too. I mean, you can make any team work, and then also Jubilee, make this four ladies, the ladies who bring mutants home, mutants who are not feeling good about this. Find that Billy Briggs, who Storm said go away that one time in classic X-Men. What about that prisoner that Cyclops met in AVX Consequences and who was killed up? Maybe bring him back. Like, let's do these stories, See, I'm also becoming dangerous now. I read excessive amount of X-Men.
I think within a
See?
week you've graduated from
Power.
X-Force to the next thing. You read
I
so
know.
many X-Men comics this week.
You went from Carrie to Gillen in like 4 days.
I mean, so we have a group chat, as many people do in this world, where we keep up with each other outside the show. And for the speed with which Fariha consumed from Uncanny X-Men 500
crazy.
to Uncanny X-Men 20 and AVX Consequences and all of the other books that go with them
Around it
was amazing. I mean, I read them pretty quickly back in the day, but not that quickly. Anyway, I want to bring us to our final maybe discussion here, is that much like our discussion in this week's Marauders issue, there's a question of social class and how social class interacts with being a mutant, and if the mutant identity erases that or not, which I think you actually just brilliantly started to tease that this is the thing. You know, Psylocke, Betsy, gosh, this is hard. Betsy goes in, but we're going to get it right because that's what you do. Betsy goes into Malice's head, and Malice's first moment with her is like, you posh, you wouldn't come to a club like this, you know, because there is questions of class. And for a moment I was like, this can't be a Betsy flashback. Why would Betsy be in this club? But you know, Betsy was a model. She knew her counterculture. And so they bring this young woman back in her body for the first time in heavens knows how long. And they say she's going to get a second chance. And Emma talks about mercy and how she's nothing if not sympathetic to those who had it hard when they were young. But are they going to do something for this person? It's one thing, again, it feels really similar to what's going on in Madripoor right now in Marauders. It's like, it's one thing to say, I did you this solid. I built you this hospital. I helped you rent an apartment. I brought you back to a body. But what are they going to do for her after that? Because they're basically just returning her to the body she was in, that she was depressed in as a kid to begin with. Where's the support? We get Betsy saying, don't blow it, love. Like, wow, thanks, Betsy.
Wow. It's telling that we're more invested in this than them like fighting a dragon or whatever at this point. Yeah.
No, we are always been. But the thing is like this is precisely why I hate Children of the Atom so much. Because like,
save it for next week, Free. Come on, save a little bit of bile for next week.
Yeah, that's fine. But the thing is, like, it's like,
say what you want to say.
But the thing is, there is like so many stories to tell about mutants, because it's not just the end when you just create a nation. It doesn't end it there. You have to build a nation, and this is about the reign of X, which is, you know, like you can look at it from many different ways, but in order to reign, or in order to the nation to succeed, their people has to be somewhat stable. And what is the community support for that? Like, are they gonna just take her with the New Mutants now? Is that what it is? Like, what's the like, you know, where the support system for that? Who is helping her? There is nothing like that. They can't even save their Quiet Council from random attacks.
On some level, I understand that, like, you know, commercial books would rather have them fighting like bridge trolls or whatever than dealing with trauma, but like this writer very clearly is very adept at dealing with like nakedly powerful emotions like this. So like I would love to see some follow-up with this next issue. Like, it's no secret, we've all very much perked up this issue because this is much more powerful than anything we've been reading. Not to come down too hard on the series, but like,
it's the best issue of Excalibur by far. Like, yeah, I don't think
by far.
I mean, we have actually all rolled our eyes that we're gonna get an Excalibur again.
Yeah,
like
that's why we come into this and do this every week. Like, we really, you know, you don't know what you're gonna get. Sometimes Hickman writes a good comic, and I get excited. You just don't know. So
slip them in.
Yeah, if Fariha can slip in her Children of the Atom dagger, I can get a Hickman dagger.
Yeah.
So here's,
it's fine.
I'm sorry that I can't get off of this topic. I say one more thing, and then if you don't have more things to go around, this can be the end. I saw this beautiful piece of data this week. We all know that I love data, and it was about income levels and the ACT scores. ACT is a US alternative to the SAT. It's more prevalent in the South and Midwest than the SATs. And it looked like this beautiful wave of color. And you're like, wow, how did the data get like that? And it's because the wave of people with a low income who get low ACT scores up to high, it's just a perfect little curve. The less money you have, the worse you do on the test. The more money you have, the better you do on the test. The only thing the test is an absolutely solid predictor of is income. And it really made me think about this. I thought about it as I was reading the issue, because Betsy says it's a fresh start. Should I do the British accent? I asked, and people said most people think that her British accent is similar to Liz Hurley's, but I can't do a Liz Hurley accent. So anyway, it's a fresh start. No one can promise it won't hurt like hell, but I've certainly had enough of my own. This one's yours. Which really just makes me think of taking somebody from a low-income family, which I was from, into a room that has an SAT test or an ACT test and sitting them down and going, everybody has challenges in their life, but this blank test paper, this is your chance to show what you're going to do. So good luck and do well. They're not going to do well because they don't have any of the privileges that you've had your entire life to set you up to know what to do well when you get that blank sheet of paper. How is this any different than...
Get it. Get pissed.
It just really felt like, I know that some people are gonna like read that scene and be like, oh, that kind Betsy. But to me, it almost felt like a total character assassination of Betsy to have that be the last line of the issue. Like, it felt so missed the point. Like, she got so close to helping somebody. She got so close to understanding something about Quan and about Malice. And then she's like, everybody loves a second chance. I always do great by mine. I don't know why. Look at these gams, though. It just feels so incongruous. So incongruous. But I do get there's something powerful that she's saying too, that I think connects to Free's message at the beginning of this episode. Like, anybody can have these feelings and anybody can be shown that like there's something to make you look forward to tomorrow. You've got a body again. There's a Harry Potter book. Like, do something with it. But at the same time, it felt really tone deaf. So I don't know. Was it tone deaf or was it encouraging? What did you take away from this final moment?
I just view it more as like the limitations of superheroes, where this may be the most support they can get. That doesn't sound right, but it's just more like
the limitations of superheroes or the limitation of superhero comics, Harry.
Superhero comics, okay. Yes. Like these. I mean, the kindness and compassion in this book, I still feel is like why I love reading this kind of stuff, because it's like people that make things better. Like, that's a very inspiring, lovely thing. But like them, like at the end of the day, like they're going to have to revert back to, not to be reductive, of fighting the bridge trolls. They don't have to, but I feel like that's what's going to happen.
What do you have against bridge trolls, Harry?
I don't know. It's just a fun phrase. I like saying bridge trolls. What did I ever do? They stole my money. I was on a bridge. But no.
They ate your goat. I mean, come on. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just took it more as like, you're right. That's like, it is kind of like, all right, go figure it out, idiot. But like, I guess I just read it more as this is just where the story will stop, which is to say that I would love to see it continue. I hope to be proven wrong, not to be cynical.
All right, Freya, take us home.
So
what did you think about it?
No, but the thing is, it also makes sense that her mom before was saying that you need to pay attention to your coursework so that you don't have to be like,
right, it was in the text of the book. I didn't even think about that, but clearly I did.
So it was actually there that her mom was also telling her that you need to do this, and she was just this depressed person who just wanted to die. And to be honest, though, I am not convinced that she's not going to try it again, because now that she has a body again, that this is not the end for her.
This is just a chance.
Yeah, this is like a chance, and then without the support, it's not going to go away for her, because this, unless they somehow manage to erase that part of her, like I don't know what Professor X does. He's weird. So but the thing, the other thing to that is that I think Betsy's reaction is very much like a British person reaction.
That's interesting.
Nice. Yeah, you're right.
Like it's a very British person reaction. Yeah, it's a very British, and it's not to mention that he's also she's also very high class. Like, so the thing is that I did not see this movie, but I listened to a podcast which made fun of this, but the Meghan and Harry's thing, like, when they got the royal wedding, whatever. So the thing, apparently there's a scene in there, which is like, Meghan is saying that, oh, I grew up in a biracial, and he's like, I grew up ginger. And one of the things the commentator said, like, I 100% believe, maybe none of the other things in this movie is true, but that's a true like that happened to Meghan. The girlfriend had to listen to this, so I was kind of thinking about that. It's like, maybe it's just such a British thing. It's like, I mean, yeah,
the pressure. I
We
have
brought
British
you
friends
back.
who've
I mean,
talked about
I
repressing
have
their
like,
feelings.
yeah, because from the Quiet Council, she got like so many news that Saturdine is against her. There's like the gate that she has to maintain. There's a gala she has to go to, and she's like, yeah, I have a lot on my plate too. So
Yeah,
you don't do
she
it
really
too. You can do it too. Second chances, har.
My
So
body was just used as a template for an entire omniversal fighting corps. So we all got
exactly. So you
We all got
situations
got
going.
problems.
this. You
We
got
all got shit.
this.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think like it's a more British reaction than anything. Upper
Yeah.
class British reaction. Brian the human would not do any better.
All right, British
So-
people,
No,
sound off in the
far
comments.
worse.
Are we
Are you
being?
Yeah,
are
I
we
shouldn't have said that. Oh, my British friends are like that. I can't. No, I retract.
Harry has
that.
British friends. Okay. So
Yeah, I can say it. God.
that has been our discussion about Excalibur issue number 20. If you want to see us discuss the other X book out this week, Marauders 19, I personally feel that it makes a beautiful companion to this discussion. So you should look for that episode as well. But the whole reason we get together is like, I will admit, when I read this on my own, like I liked it and I saw these themes, but I got so much more out of it from talking to you because why, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
I know it sounds like a line that I just say to set up Fariha every week, but like every week I think I know what I know about these comic books. And every week it turns out that I don't know what I thought I knew about these comic books because I get to talk to these wonderful people about it.
I second that. It's like a real delight to just have their perspective shift with these conversations. It's so fun.
So with that energy, we say goodbye to you and that we hope we'll welcome you back to the channel again. Please be well. And if you're struggling or if you're having thoughts of self-harm or any other problem that you cannot surmount yourself, there are people out there to help you and listen to you. In the United States, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's 1-800-273-8255. And there are places like that to help you in all the other countries as of the world as well. So on behalf of myself, Fariha, and Harry, thank you so much for being a part of our This Week in X discussion. And we hope until next time that you are well.